We're going to analyze President Obama's State of the Union address, and we have a little clip that we put together of some of Vice President Biden's more comical body language, and also a question for you. Why do we have elections? This is the voice of resistance.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Before we look at certain elements of President Obama's State of the Union address, I want to ask you a simple question. Why do we have elections? The reason we have elections is so that we don't have to resort to other means to change our government. Look throughout history, what are the options? Either you have an election or you have a tyrant or a group of tyrants who are in office in perpetuity until one of them dies. And if people are not content with that government and they don't have an election, what are their options? Civil war, assassinations, disappearances, exile, imprisonment. When he walked into that chamber and everyone stood to their feet and applauded, I want you to know I was glad that everyone, whatever party they were from, even those that despise this presidency, they stood to their feet and they applauded. If I'd have been there, I would have done the same thing, as much as I loathe this presidency. And I would have done so to honor the office of the presidency, not to honor his policy and the things that he is doing to us. But I would have stood and applauded because I'm so thankful to live in a country where we have the peaceful transition of power. Because the alternative to that, they've gotten pretty ugly, pretty messy, pretty brutal and bloody throughout history and in current times in other nations. I'm glad we live here. All right, now on to his rancorous speech. Let's roll some tape and take a look at what he's saying.
For several years now, this town has been consumed by a rancorous argument over the proper size of the federal government. It's an important debate, one that dates back to our very founding. But when that debate prevents us from carrying out even the most basic functions of our democracy.
All right, well, first of all, as far as I know, the basic functions of democracy haven't been stopped. I mean, the basic function of a democracy is an election, all right? We still have elections. So the rancorous debate about the proper size of government thus far has not stopped elections from occurring. It's a bait and switch. I continue.
When our differences shut down government or threaten the full faith and credit of the United States, then we are not doing right by the American people.
Well, first of all, the government shutdown, I mean, most people didn't feel it. Did you? Was your life upended? Was your livelihood threatened? For most of us, the government shutdown was a non-event, which makes you kind of wonder, what are we spending all this money on that I can live without it? Second thing he said is that the shutdown threatened the full faith and credit of the United States. Hold on a second. Our credit rating is being threatened because we are borrowing and spending like drunken sailors. That's the problem. We have the largest debt of any nation in the history of the human race. And friend, it's unsustainable. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time until we have some type of severe economic collapse due precisely because of our spending and our borrowing and our borrowing and our spending, and that we're living outside of our means. Third, he said, well, we're not doing right by the American people. Well, I would argue that saddling every child that is born today and that was born yesterday and that'll be born tomorrow, saddling every child with a $54,000 debt, that's not doing right by the American people. Every man, woman, and child in this nation right now owes over $54,000 toward the debt, all right? That doesn't include what we're spending on this year. That's just the accumulated money that our government has borrowed and said, we're going to place that burden, that IOU, on the back of the taxpayer. That's not doing right by the American people. Ultimately, the debate in Washington is not about the proper size of government. It's about the proper purpose of government. Because if the purpose of government is to provide for us from our cradle to our grave, well then the proper size has to be equal to the proper purpose. And if the purpose of government were confined to its constitutional definitions, well, the size of government would be 1/5 of what it is now. Oh, for the good old days. I'll be right back looking at more of his speech. My wife and I, for 5 years, have been grinding our own wheat and baking our own bread from scratch. Within 2 hours, you can have fresh wheat in your hand and then piping hot bread come out of the oven. The most nutritious and delicious bread you will ever have. And we do it for under $1 a loaf. Call Paula's Bread and find out about this grain mill and the mixer and how it can save you money and change your life. The imperial presidency. There are a lot of people on both sides of the aisle who have been very suspect about the use of executive orders, where the president seems to just create law out of thin air. I mean, look at him. He changed the Obamacare mandates without the approval of Congress. Just said, boom, we're going to do this. He said, I'm not going to enforce the DOMA laws. I mean, is he our king? Is he our emperor? What is this? And there were people that were afraid that he was going to use references to the executive order in his speech. While he never used the phrase executive order, he ran right at it and said, I'm going to do what I want. For example,
some require congressional action, and I am eager to work with all of you. But America does not stand still, and neither will I. So wherever and whenever I can take steps without legislation to expand opportunity for more American families, that's what I'm going to do.
Well, it's almost funny hearing President Obama say that he's eager to work with members of Congress, especially when he says, but I am not going to wait for you. America's not standing still, and neither will I. And if I can help American families... Hold on, Mr. Obama. You helping my family scares me. If you want to help my family, put your pen, the one that you use for executive orders, put it in a drawer. And promise me and my family that you won't use it anymore. All right, to the next clip.
We'll need Congress to protect more than 3 million jobs by finishing transportation and waterways bills this summer. That can happen. But I'll act on my own to slash bureaucracy and streamline the permitting process for key projects so we can get more construction workers on the job as fast as possible.
Well, again, here we have our imperial presidency, but stop for a second. Mr. President, if you were going to act on your own, if you were going to get that pen out of your desk, how about not bottling up the Keystone Pipeline? How about issuing permits for drilling in Alaska? How about creating jobs, not in waterways or in transportation, which is going to require taxpayer money, but how about issuing permits so that we can be done with our dependence on terror funding Saudi Arabian oil, all right? If you want to act alone, which, as I've stated, I'm not all in favor of, but right now you are acting alone by bottling up what could really create jobs in the private sector instead of waterways and transportation, which still just goes back to the government trough. That's where people are getting it from. I don't like his policies, I admit it. All right, next clip.
When we rescued our automakers, for example, we worked with them to set higher fuel efficiency standards for our cars. In the coming months, I'll build on that success by setting new standards for our trucks so we can keep driving down oil imports and what we pay at the pump.
Again, we saved the auto industry, socialism. Actually, that's more like fascism. But anyway, and then he says, I'll set higher standards for trucks. And we'll have to pay less at the pump. Just let us drill for oil in America, okay? Give us access to these vast, untapped oil fields if you want to help us pay less at the pump. It's about supply and demand, Mr. President. Next clip.
Citizenship means standing up for the lives that gun violence steals from us each day. I've seen the courage of parents, students, pastors, police officers all over this country who say, we are not afraid. And I intend to keep trying, with or without Congress, to help stop more tragedies from visiting innocent Americans in our movie theaters and our shopping malls or schools like Sandy Hook.
Again, I intend to do it with or without Congress, but I have to at least comment on the fact that the facts show that what he is after, which is massive gun control, and if he had his way, I'm sure there'd be gun confiscation, it doesn't stop crime, okay? Criminals are not going to give up their guns because we say, you can't have a library card. We're going to deny you your Kroger card unless you turn over your pistol. No, if you want families to be able to protect themselves, let them protect themselves. Don't make it harder for law-abiding citizens to get the ammunition that they need and the guns that they want. Don't make people afraid of their government. Help them to be self-sustaining citizens, not citizens that clamor for the help of the police state. But alas, the president's philosophy is what propels his policy. Always remember that. Philosophy is what undergirds policy. A person's governing philosophy is what propels them toward the policies that they want to enact. And this man is not somebody who shares the philosophy of government and liberty and life and law that this nation was built upon. That's why he's dismantling it, one brick at a time. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last. Perhaps some of the most damning elements of Obama's speech were his words about families. Now, he didn't actually talk that much about families, but what he bore in on was pre-K. Listen to this.
Research shows that one of the best investments we can make in a child's life is high-quality early education.
That is not true. Research does not show that. What research does in fact show is that, for example, homeschooled children do better in testing, that homeschooled children and children in private schools do better with reading, writing, arithmetic, and that they get better jobs. So his insistence on this research, it's laughable. In fact, Stanford and the University of California just followed 14,000 children and showed that they had more behavioral problems because they went to pre-K. Do you understand that this is about the government being our parent? God gave us our children. The scripture says, honor thy father and mother. That's the commandment. Honor your father and mother so that your days may be long upon the land. It doesn't say honor your uncle, Sam. Honor your mother and father. And if you look at the history of kindergarten, well, you know what? I'll save that. Let's play the next clip because I'm going to read to you a couple things that are going to make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. Play the clip.
Last year, I asked this Congress to help states make high-quality pre-K available to every 4-year-old. And as a parent, as well as a president, I repeat that request tonight. But in the meantime, 30 states have raised pre-K funding on their own. They know we can't wait. So just as we worked with states to reform our schools, this year we'll invest in new partnerships with states and communities across the country in a race to the top for our youngest children. And as Congress decides what it's going to do, I'm going to pull together a coalition of elected officials, business leaders, and philanthropists willing to help more kids access the high-quality pre-K that they need. It is right for America. We need to get this done.
Okay, so the president is going to team up with other people so he can really push his pre-K agenda. Why? I mean, think about it. They've created this massive welfare state. All right, they created broken families with their policies, or at least helped stimulate them financially. I mean, why would you marry somebody if you can get more money from the government by having more children out of wedlock? But I digress. They created the situation in which parents are looking to the government to save them, and then they say, you know what? You're right, we've got to save you. You're not even able to properly mold and to train your 4-year-old. You need a professional to help train your 4-year-old. Now, what possible vested interest could they have? Let me read to you something from the John Rockefeller General Education Board. In our dreams, people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hands. Ah, yes, a docile rabble. The present education conventions of intellectual and character education fade from their minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill upon a grateful and responsive folk. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into men of learning or philosophers or men of science. We have not to raise up from them authors, educators, poets, or men of letters, great artists, painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors, statesmen, politicians, creatures of whom we have ample supply. The task is simple. We will organize children and teach them in a perfect way the things their fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way. In other words, he wants a better workforce, a docile workforce. One more quote. Plans are underway to replace family, community, and church with propaganda, mass media, and education. People are only little plastic lumps of dough. Friend, don't fall for it. The reason that they want your 4-year-old is not for your 4-year-old's benefit. It's for their benefit. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. Well, President Obama had to deal with Obamacare. He just had to. And he made some fairly inane arguments and told Congress, stop trying to overturn this law, it's helping people, blah, blah, blah. But then he turned to the American public, and I actually was embarrassed.
That's why tonight I ask every American who knows someone without health insurance to help them get covered by March 31st. Help them get covered.
Are you serious, Mr. President? Do you want me to go to my grocery store, or you want me to go to my church and start polling people? Do you have health insurance? Well, let me help you get it. How am I going to help them get it? I'm going to sit and hold their hand while they wait on the phone for 5 hours before they can talk to a government official, or walk them through your broken online sign-up page? I mean, this was actually embarrassing, but it got worse. Go ahead.
Moms, get on your kids to sign up. Kids, call your mom and walk her through the application. They'll give her some peace of mind, and plus she'll appreciate hearing from you. After all, that's the spirit that has always moved this nation forward. It's the spirit of citizenship.
All right, so the true spirit of citizenship is that you are going to help your mom get signed up, and you're going to help your child get signed up. We know it's a good joke about moms hearing from their kids, but hey, listen to me. Am I a bad citizen if I don't want my mom to sign up for Obamacare? Is my mom a bad citizen if she doesn't help me get signed up? Talk about a bait and switch. I don't think that good citizens teach their fellow citizens to become socialists. All right, now, for comic relief, let's finish the show. Normally, you know that I'm very serious here, but I was watching Vice President Biden, and at first it was annoying, then it was distracting, then it got funny, and I said to Lane, can we just put a montage together to show people how he behaved during the president's speech? Watch this for yourself. All right, so he starts the scratching over and over, and you're just going to start leaning around. What's that? What's that paper? Why is he putting that on the floor? And he's got something he's pulling out of his pocket. Now he's putting it back in. What is that, like a secret memo? Where did I put that paper? Is it still there? Okay, yeah, okay. I'm giving him the pinky. Is that the mafia or some Luciferian pinky? Is my manila folder still there? Yep, still got it. Okay. Oh, that place where I shaved. Now it's above my nose, that tickle spot. It's running back and forth, above my lip, below my lip. Now it's up on my cheek. He's laughing at somebody. What is he doing? He's laughing at somebody. The president's trying to be serious, and he's like, oh, wait a minute. I forgot where I was. I have to pretend that I'm interested in what my beloved leader is saying. There's my manila folder. I'm going to put it on the other side. Please make him stop. Please make the speech stop. Now he's scratching his face, laughing again. Poor John Boehner. There's the tickle. That's coming back. I think he really goes for his nose. No, he's going for the paper again. Yeah, it's still there. Okay. We didn't duplicate any of this. This is not a rerun of anything, okay? He's back to scratching. I think the scratching gets really intense now. Maybe he got Botox or something and it's just bugging him. Friends, this is disrespectful of the vice president. Can't he sit still? Now it's my hair. Is my gel working? I got that little fleck in my eye. Now it's on my lip. I'm wiping off the spittle. Back to my hair. Do I look good? Do I look good? He brought a tear to my eye. He brought another tear to my eye. I can't even believe we had to watch this. Vice President Biden, please, you're embarrassing yourself. At least stand by your president. It's getting hot in here. No, I got it. He's a third base coach. Steal third. He's giving him the signal. Steal third.